In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with Tre Tailor. Coping. Hey there, and thank you so much for joining us on Coping. I'm Tre Tailor, and we're giving you info and advice to help you thrive and survive in life because we will always be coping with something. Today, we are coping with scleroderma. Monika Hilton joins us to share the story of her 6-year journey with this autoimmune disease. Monika, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey Trey, long time no see.
I know it. I know it. And we have been trying to get this interview for a while, but no time is like the right time. So I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you, how this disease that a lot of people haven't heard about really drastically not only change your life, but change the trajectory of your life. We're going to talk to Monika in just a short. That's next on Coping. But first, don't forget to check the bottom of the screen throughout the show. You'll see scrolling information on COVID tests, vaccines, community events, job listings, financial resources, including scholarships, help with your rent, mortgage, and bills, and so much more. We are streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. So please post, share, like, and follow so we can get the message to the masses. Today, we're coping with scleroderma. Monika Hilton joins us to share her 6-year journey. You may remember Monika in Columbia, South Carolina, or in South Carolina. She was one of the most popular bakers in really, I would say, not only in South Carolina, in the region. You were one of the first to even do a sugar-free cake. I remember you had made one for comedian J. Anthony Brown, as a matter of fact, some sugar-free treats. And then she moved to Atlanta. And I don't want to tell your story, but why did you move to Atlanta? What happened that you left Columbia and moved to Atlanta?
I felt like I had reached my plateau in Columbia. And so even though I was, still building my business in South Carolina, I felt like Atlanta was the place to go to be able to rebuild and rebrand and, tap into a lot of all of this entertainment that's going on in the city.
Right. And you did do that, right?
I did get started with that. In fact, I achieved some of the major goals that I had set for myself. And then when that happened, man, scleroderma showed up.
So Monika, what is scleroderma?
Scleroderma means the hardening or tightening of the skin. But to kind of explain it in layman's terms, it's an overproduction of collagen. And for me, scleroderma has caused not only about 80% of my body, my skin is really tight, but joint stiffness, muscle pain, muscle weakness, muscle deterioration, because the less you move, which is, it's kind of like it's kind of twisted. The less you move, the worse you get. But it's very difficult to
move.
Yeah. So once I learned that, and started taking a turn for the worse, my doctors were telling me things that it just sounded like something I didn't want to hear. You have to move. You have to stay active. You have to be consistent with your physical therapy. But in doing that,
which is hard when you're stiff.
Exactly.
How did you find out you had it? Is it one of those things that it's hereditary?
It's not hereditary. However, it is like a travel gene that can bounce around. But I found out I had it because I started waking up with numb fingers, and like my hands leading down to my elbow was just numb. And It would happen in the morning mostly, and in the beginning, I thought maybe I was just sleeping because I sleep real tight in fetal position, and I thought maybe I was just sleeping on my arms and waking up to that. But when I started paying more attention to that, I began to consult with my family doctor and told her what was going on. And so initially she told me that she thought it was carpal tunnel. And based on the fact that before I was the cake lady, I did hair for a few years, and then all those years of piping and cutting, chopping, stirring, and all of that.
Your hands.
So I figured, okay, gave a little thought to that, but then I began to research, and not only that, the people that I know that had experienced carpal tunnel, I was like, I don't think that's what I got going on.
So you kind of took the initiative to, okay, this is what the doctor said, but I think it's something more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's so key, Monika, that we know our bodies and we've got to advocate for our own health. You know,
it's
you go to the
necessary.
doctor, you listen to the doctor, but then you think, something else may be going on. So
that's exactly what happened. And I told the doctor that I didn't think it was carpal tunnel. And so I asked for a referral to see a rheumatologist.
Why a rheumatologist? Why a rheumatologist?
Because they told me that it was some form of they told me that they thought it might have been some type of arthritis.
Oh, okay.
And from that point, since they gave me the opportunity to do a self referral anyway, that's the direction that I went.
Right.
I wasn't experiencing the constriction with my fingers yet, but they were just swelling, and I was experiencing the numbing and the tingling, but no pain at the time.
We're talking to Monika Hilton, formerly the cake lady. She also has done hair. She's been living in Atlanta from Columbia, South Carolina. And in the height of her career, she found out she had scleroderma, which is an autoimmune disease that causes tightening and stiffness of the limbs. So how did you finally find out you had it?
After seeing 3 rheumatologists,
Wow.
Kind of in the same week, I went to a dermatologist because the skin across my chest was so tight. It looked like oil was on me at all times.
Oh,
that's
wow.
How tight my skin was, and my neck and my face was tightening up the same way.
Now listen, girl. And for some people, I mean, look, we want our face to be.
At least I don't have to go. I don't have to get the
collagen, and it's almost like, it's good, but it's too good to be true.
Right. Right. But it's kind of mellowed out a little bit, and I'm good now. But in the beginning, it was like pressed.
Wow.
And that was really scaring me. Like,
over what period of time did you see your skin really tightening up?
When it happened, it began really, really rapid. So being diagnosed in 2016, I didn't start feeling anything other than the swelling and a little discomfort, the fatigue, and I was saying the fatigue at the time, but until 2019. And so between those 3 years, I was just taking the medication like nothing is changing. I'm still really tired, but not understanding what fatigue really meant. And then in 2019, I began to develop the crooked fingers, and and my arms began to tighten
because they're so tight that you can't stretch them out.
Right. That's exactly what's happening.
Wow.
Yeah. And so my arms began to tighten up against, my body kind of, it was difficult to the bend in my elbow. It was difficult to straighten. It still is. But physical therapy helps out a whole lot. But that time frame was about a year where I began to see the skin on my chest, my torso, my pelvic area, behind my knees, my ankles, arms, and even my traps, my shoulders, and everything. It was very difficult to even do this at one point.
Right. So Monika, once they determined that you had scleroderma, what's the treatment?
A lot of medication. They medicate the various symptoms rather than the actual disease.
Right?
Yeah, because
and there are
is
several
no cure.
Different symptoms. So I'm sure there's several different types of medication.
Yeah, yeah. It's no cure for scleroderma. So they treat me for Raynaud's, and I take about 3 medications for Raynaud's.
What is Raynaud's?
Raynaud's is,
girl. We don't know.
I know. Raynaud's is when your blood does not properly flow through your extremities, and it often causes you to become very cold, your fingers and toes to become very cold.
And is that again because it's too tight for the blood to flow through?
That's exactly right.
Wow.
That's exactly right. And so I'm treated for Raynaud's. I'm treated for GERD. I have esophageal dysfunction, which causes esophageal spasms. And it's a severe form of heartburn, to put it, simple.
Yeah.
My digestive system is pretty bad because of the tightening going on and stuff like that. So
how much medication do you take on a daily basis, Monika?
On a daily basis, I take about 27 pills.
Wow. Almost 30 pills a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, which we are coping with scleroderma today. We're talking to Monika Hilton. She has been on this journey with scleroderma for 6 years. It is an autoimmune disease that causes the tightening of your skin, your limbs, joint stiffness, fatigue, as she said, potential organ failure, intestinal complications, and of course, chronic pain. So Monika, you were again, very highly sought after baker, moved to Atlanta. You're working in your field, doing a lot of celebrity stuff. This happens. What happens to your career?
Oh, man. So,
because you're not feeling your optimum. I mean, you can't. I mean, to bake, you've got to move your hands. You've got
you have to. You need your hands.
I think we take that for granted.
That's right. People do. I did. People do take for granted the very small things that it takes to just get up and just get up.
Just right there.
Yeah. People take that for granted, but when I moved here, one of the things that I always wanted to do was compete on Cake Wars. And I was able to compete on Cake Wars in 2016, and then shortly after that I was diagnosed, but I wasn't restricted to certain things that I am now. I wasn't having these issues at that time. So I went on to compete in another national show called Sugar Rush, and this was in 2018, and I was experiencing the swollen knuckles, and even I go back and I look at the show like, dang, my fingers were big, my knuckles were really big, but it still didn't affect me being able to do that show. But then the next year, I got a call from Chopped and also Hell's Kitchen. And Hell's Kitchen, I did the audition, and I got through like the second round of auditions. And when it was time to present my dish, of course, I couldn't have Marvin or Zanaya, who normally assist me with stuff.
Which is your daughter, your husband and your daughter.
Right. And so I had to go in by myself. And when it was time to display the dish, I kind of tilted and I did a pineapple bowl. Because at that point, at that time, I had become very popular for doing the pineapple rice bowls. And so when it was time to pull it out, and it kind of tilted a little bit because I couldn't control, you know, just displaying the dish or whatever with my hands or whatever. And so a judge asked me what was going on with my knuckles, that they looked, you know, white and discolored and inflamed. So, you know, I had to you know, let them know, you know, because they ask you, will you be able to lift 50 pounds? Would you be able to chop, cut, stir, stand, bend?
Because you'll have to do that on the show. Yeah,
right.
Do that.
And so I wasn't able to go any further with that. And I was devastated. Sure. Oh my gosh, I was devastated, crushed. And so same thing when I had my interview with Chopped. They asked me this in the Skype interview, and you know, of course, I had to be honest because I did have difficulties at this point, and I began to sink in this hole of depression because, of course. You know, this is what I've been doing.
This is what I always wanted to do.
I'm telling you.
And now, and I'm sure you asked. Really, God?
I surely did. You must have heard me, girl. That was my number one question. Really, God? Because I often said in the many interviews that I've done over the years, I've said all the time that God shows me my name in lights. And, you know, when I said, really, God, I'm like, how you just gonna show me this and then take it all away? And then,
girl, his words are his thoughts are not our thoughts. His
ways
are not our ways.
Exactly.
Because you are now, and your name is becoming in light as an advocate for scleroderma.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So tell us about that. Tell us what you're doing and how you recognize I've got to cope with the scleroderma and even cope with what God has showed me in a different way by being an advocate for what I'm dealing with.
Well, I felt like I know that I was in hiding. I'd say between 2020 after the death of my mom and 2021, I'd say late 2021, and I for that duration of time, people would often inbox or text or call and be like, Mo, what's good? Like, I hadn't seen you in a minute. You're not posting. I don't see no pictures, no videos, and I don't know. I felt like I never felt like people didn't, you know, care about me. People didn't pay attention to what I was doing. People didn't follow me, supported me. I never felt that way. But I felt like I don't look like I used to look. I don't look the same. And I'm afraid of this look. And I'm afraid of having to explain this look.
Yes. People gonna ask questions.
Yeah. So I didn't it took me a minute to process.
Yeah. And to wrap your head around it.
Yeah.
And to embrace it. Because listen, I'm gonna tell you, I saw where you had a drastic weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first thing I thought. I was like, oh, Monika is really lost a lot of weight. She looks great. Was that part of the scleroderma?
The end of it. It was the tail end of the weight loss was the beginning of scleroderma. That's what I meant to say.
Okay.
So I had the gastric sleeve in 2016, in August of 2016. And in my advocacy, I'm a break a little bit. In my advocacy, I often ask when I go to these support groups and conferences about people who may have had some type of surgery, a major surgery, prior to their diagnosis. And I'm finding that people often say that they have had a major surgery, and they've been told that scleroderma was probably dormant in their body
Really?
until they woke it up with this major
Oh,
surgery.
wow. Wow.
And I had the gastric sleeve in August of 2016, and I was diagnosed in December of 2016. And they take you through an extensive amount of tests when when you are trying to become a candidate for something like the gastric sleeve. So there was blood work, there was stress tests or mental tests. They put you on a certain diet to check your liver and just different things. And the I forget what the name of the blood work for, to test your inflammation in your body or whatever. That wasn't a question. It didn't raise any concerns. So we jump right over that. But they do ask you, do you have family members that have you know these types of illnesses, what run in your family and stuff like
Right,
that.
right, right.
Scleroderma didn't come up. So I didn't have that to say to the doctors. Well, I got an aunt that died 40 years of scleroderma,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is a fact. But my family did not acknowledge that I did have an aunt that died.
Wow. So
40.
you did have family history and you didn't know
Yeah,
about
my mom's sister had scleroderma, and I think in 70, she died in 78.
it. Wow.
No. She died in 77.
Right.
And but
Which
they never
makes the
really talked
case
about it.
for, yeah, and you said what I was going to say, which makes the case for we got to talk about these
We
things
gotta talk
in our
about it.
family, because you never know, you don't know, and these are important things. We're coping with scleroderma today. Monika Hilton joins us. She's sharing about her 6-year journey with the autoimmune disease that is hardens your skin and makes it difficult for you to move around. If you are just joining us, please hit the rewind button and find out more about scleroderma. Tell us about your advocacy now, what you're doing, and what you want people to know, and how people can contact you, Monika.
Okay. Well, I've finished. I'm almost finished, but I'm finishing my second book, um, which is called I Decided. And through the traumas, the triggers, the triumphs in scleroderma, I decided to come out of hiding. I
Yeah.
decided to talk about um, my journey with scleroderma, because there are so many people that um, don't know how to, articulate, have this disease.
Right, they're experiencing it and they're going through what you went through.
Right.
You're confused, you're angry, you're hurting,
That's
you're
right.
maybe a little ashamed, and but you got life goes on and you're wondering what's next? How do
That's
I
right.
navigate this?
Right. I mean, at 40 years old, I'm sitting around like I I'm like the Energizer Bunny. I can't sit still. So, okay, God, what am I gonna do with this?
Right.
What now? You know, I often talk about one evening after my mom was gone, and I had a moment where I just went to bed like,
Yeah.
my mama gone, and
Right.
you know, I got this going on, I got this going on, and I think in my prayer that night, my last words as I drifted off to sleep was, "Why me, God?" And when I woke up the next morning, my first words wasn't "Thank you, God." It was, "Why not me, God?"
Not me.
You know, it was a continuation of that prayer, waking up saying, "Why not me? Why can't I be the person that is, you know, talking about scleroderma, like whomever started breast cancer awareness started talking about breast
Somebody
cancer.
got to do it.
Somebody got to do it.
Somebody got to do it. And I do think, you know, the old saying, God doesn't give us more than we can bear, but I do think he changes the trajectory of our lives so that we can fulfill our purpose. And listen, I think, and I hope you know, you wanted to do great things with your baking, and you did. You wanted to be on TV shows, and you were. And
Yeah.
now it's time for you to do something else. You know, our dreams and goals and wishes are not just one thing. God
Right.
wants us to do several things, you know. And I'm
That's
so
right.
glad you recognize this is another chapter. This is
That's right. Where he can still show me my name in lights.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
that's
I
right.
think it's important because you know, people the groups that I'm a part of, like the different Facebook pages and support groups and stuff like that, people like really, really um want to give up. I'm talking like
Oh
they
yeah.
say it. They actually take the time to type it. I don't want to be here anymore.
Right, right.
You know,
It's got
I'm
to be hard. It's hard.
man. I and that I wasn't there in that little dark room. I was not
Right,
there.
right.
Um,
You were in a room, but it wasn't that dark. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we can
I wasn't
empathize, I'm
there.
sure.
Jeez, I never wanted to take my life. I wanted to, you know, take what God, you know, where God has put me and take that somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Take this story on the road, if anything. But I didn't want to take my life because
Yeah.
I got a lot to live for.
Exactly.
And
And thank God you recognize that, Monika.
absolutely.
And thank God you're able to stand in the gap and motivate and encourage and inspire those who are there.
Right. Because it wasn't easy. It wasn't
Yeah.
easy. It used
Right.
to
You
not
had
be
to get
so
there.
easy to even talk about it without breaking down and crying, like, you know what I'm saying? Or not talking about it at all.
Right.
It was levels to this.
Yeah. 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 And you're able. So tell me, what is the one thing you would say to someone who is dealing with scleroderma based on your journey and based on your encouraging people daily through this journey?
Get up, girl. Educate yourself. Get up off that chair. Because I became a literal couch potato. And and it could be you know, two sides to that, because my husband and my daughter are super, super supportive, and like they did everything for me.
Right.
Everything. I'm talking about, even if there were days where I was so weak that I couldn't wash, he would literally do it for me. And Zanaya would have if Marvin wasn't here. You know what I'm saying? They
Right.
did
Right.
every single thing for me. Lined up my medication, put my clothes on, took my clothes off, whatever it
And
takes.
I'm sure they encouraged you also, encouraged you, prayed for you,
They
lifted you up.
absolutely
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
But I allowed that to be a part of my routine
Yes.
so much that it became it hindered me from being motivated to do anything for myself.
Right. Yeah.
So when I decided, you got to do better than this, you gotta get up, you gotta, you know, you gotta exercise, you gotta Do your physical therapy. You got to eat right. You have, and that is key. Okay, so all of my life eating cake for it, any time that I wanted to eat cake or dessert or whatever, I am definitely still a fiend. But I absolutely know that that sugar exacerbates the inflammation.
Yeah.
And if you clean up your diet, you can reduce a lot of the issues that that any autoimmune disease causes. Because most diseases start in your gut, and if you are eating junk, your gut is not healthy, and it's going to spill out and cause other things to go on.
Yeah, on the show on Wellness Wednesday, we talk a lot about the effects of, diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure. And over the years, talking to so many medical professions, if there is one thing that is the common denominator with any disease, is what you eat.
Absolutely.
What you eat and don't eat, things that you do and don't eat, is the common denominator. And that old saying, you are what you eat, is so important. It's fine to have a little bit of dessert, but you've got to, and it's a potato chip, girl. That's my thing. Potato chips. But I can't eat them every day, all day. You got to eat some fruits, some vegetables. I don't eat meat, but I guess you got to eat a little bit of meat or whatever, So that is really the common thing. Please check out Monika. You can see her information on the screen. If you want more information about scleroderma, if you want her to come and speak to your event, or either motivate or encourage maybe a family member, she has a couple of books. You can see that information also, and also the website. Monika, thank you so much for
thank you,
and for sharing your story, and for continuing to learn how to cope with your situation. I mean, we, like the saying for the show says, the show's mantra is, we'll always be coping with something. So we're here to motivate, encourage, uplift, and inspire people that they can cope successfully. And you have done that, and we appreciate you so much. Thank you, Monika.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. We appreciate you. Hey, coming up next Wednesday, as a matter of fact, we're going to talk to a physician that is going to kind of break down what Monika told us about scleroderma. She said so many interesting things. So again, if you are just joining us, please hit the rewind button and check out the interview. Talk to your family about what your family diseases and past is. And then again, of course, check us out next Wellness Wednesday when we talk more about scleroderma. I'm Tre Tailor. Coming up in just a short, your devotional, and then more on coping. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, I'm Carolyn Sawyer, an entrepreneur and caregiver. Part of taking care of your health is knowing if you're at risk of type 2 diabetes. Prediabetes is serious and puts you at risk for developing type 2 diabetes. Up to 90% of South Carolinians who have it don't know they have it. Visit inittogethersc.org. Take an online test to find out your risk and join a diabetes prevention program. This message brought to you by the Diabetes Action Council of SC.
Hey there, thank you so much for joining us on Coping. I'm Tre Tailor. We're giving you info and advice to help you thrive and survive in life, because we will always be coping with something. Hey, before I leave, I want to share this devotional with you. This is from Conversations with God. It's from Cheryl Mims Williams with Agape Counseling and Training Services in Columbia, South Carolina. This is such a great book. It includes some of her prayers, some of her diary readings, and devotionals. This one says, "Trust me, my child. I know you're having a hard time praying, studying, and focusing on me. I know you don't like the way this feels. You can't rely on your feelings." That's good. This is about knowing, being faithful, and holding on. Knowing even if you don't feel or see it. Isn't that such a wonderful reminder that God is with us always, even if we don't feel it, see it, or hear it? We've got to know it That's what faith is all about. It's from Cheryl Mims Williams from Agape Counseling and Training Services. This is called Conversations with God. I'm Tre Tailor. Thank you so much for joining us on Coping. We're giving you info and advice to help you thrive and survive in life, because we will always be coping with something. The good thing about it is that we're never alone. Thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Coping, find peace of mind to survive through whatever. Coping, learning the way that we thrive all together. Coping, finding out what's real. Coping, we can heal, we can heal, we can heal. Coping with stress, coping with strife, bringing hope for success, for improving our life. Coping beyond hoping to do more than survive, ways to live a healthy life. Coping and promoting, learning what you can do, 6 ways to a better you. Coping, find peace of mind to survive